Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Out of Isolation, the show where we out-of-work tour guides with Walks 101 show you our favorite parts of the city so you don't have to go outside yourself. Today I am at my favorite arcade in Australia, the oldest arcade in Australia, and it looks a little something like this. Now, you guys who are looking from right there might notice a few things different, some horses and buggies and no trams, but that building itself is still here today, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in 1870 in just a moment. But in the meantime, just briefly, Hugo, why don't you tell us where you are?
G'day everybody. Well, John, I'm actually at my favourite arcade in all of Australia. Oh, I'm right in front of it, in fact. This is the Block Arcade, one of the most gorgeous examples of post-gold rush architecture in not just Melbourne, but in fact all of Australia. So I am going to head inside.
And while you do that, have a look at that, people. There's the building I was just showing you on the picture, the Royal Arcade. So you see that same archway right there, the Royal Crest at the top. A lot fewer horses and buggies nowadays, though, now been all replaced by trams. Because I am on the Brook Street Mall, and as I make my way through here, I am going to not get hit by a tram.
Good idea. Safety first, John.
Right. I'm going to tell you why this building is so important, because shopping has changed a lot in the last few years. H&M over there is now kind of the place to go shopping now in terms of what is fashionable. The Meijer was the peak place during the mid-20th century, still a boring department store, but this Royal Arcade, this was the place to go back in 1870 when it first opened. And I do want to take a moment to acknowledge 1870 is really, really early in Melbourne's history. Melbourne begins in 1835, the gold rush starts in 1851. By 1870, they can build this. It's a really incredible achievement. What do you have around you, Hugo?
I have a set of traffic lights. Now, I was going to jaywalk, John, but I decided to wait for
We're responsible.
the green man. Very responsible.
There was a viewer of this very show who saw me and caught me, a girl who's my niece, who said John was jaywalking, and so we got to watch out, man. We got a lot of eyes on us.
Oh, what a jay. What a jay.
While you cross over, I can point out my favorite chocolatier here, Hague's. Not Hague's, let's try that again. Cocoa Black. Cocoa Black over here is a Melbourne chocolatier. During normal times, I'll have a little ice cream cart out here, but for right now, they have takeaway chocolates, and my favorite is takeaway hot chocolates, the best hot chocolate I've ever had. What do you do if you want to go get some nice food over in the Block Arcade, though, Hugo?
Well, if you want good chocolate at the Block Arcade, you don't have to go any further than the Hague's. Now, Hague's, have to be honest, it did start in Adelaide, but started there over 100 years ago. Now, the best part about Hague's, you go in there and you ask for a free sample. Those lovely people there will give you some of their amazing chocolate. Just want to show you where I am here. Look at this beautiful mosaic, or terrazzo, as it's known. Now, this is one of the major aspects of the Block Arcade, as I'm walking through now. Ooh, isn't it gorgeous? Now, if there was something else you wanted to eat or drink during your time here, then you shouldn't go any further than the Hopetoun tea rooms. Now, what is the drink of choice amongst Melburnians today, John?
Well, I mean, beer, right?
Beer? Beer's a big one. I was thinking during working hours, you might have a beer at the end of the day.
Oh, coffee. I got it.
Coffee.
Flat white. Thank you.
Thanks
for the prompt.
Make it two, thanks. But originally, being a British settlement, it was tea. And the Hopetoun tea rooms have been here since this arcade first opened in 1892. So Melbourne's wealthy and well-to-do would be parading through the Block Arcade. They might stop for tea and cake. They might shop for some spices from the Orient. They might shop for silks and clothes that have been imported from Paris or Milan. And not a whole lot has changed, to be honest. Behind me is Hague's, though, the chocolate shop we were talking about earlier.
As long as we're on food, I may as well talk about my favorite food thing. So I'm still in the main hallway here of the Royal Arcade. And if you go down the main hallway, you can't miss these side little hallways too. There are side hallways in the Royal Arcade, and in one of them is my absolute favorite place to go for food. It is a tiny little hole-in-the-wall closet. It's called Agit Patisserie. There's my French going for you. How am I doing? Agit Patisserie. Getting the phlegm going. But this is an amazing bakery. Its main premises are, if you can see on the sign here, it's the South Melbourne Market right there. And so that's where you want to go if you want to get the hot, fresh stuff. But they actually do a delivery on the regular here to what they call the petite shop. And then if you come to the petite shop, you can get my favorite, which is the ham and cheese croissant. Am I doing that French okay? The croissant?
I'm not French, but I still feel you're murdering it.
I think you're right. I'm killing it. Absolutely. That's what you meant, right?
Sure. I've heard today, I just learned that to speak French badly is, they say, you sound like a Spanish cow.
You know what the secret to French is? Is
What?
you just start saying words and then just randomly, at no point in particular, just stop for no reason. So it's not les miserables, it's les miserables. That's it. It's French.
If
I've
there
got it figured out.
if any French listeners out there, we apologise. Any French viewers?
Well, in the meantime, I want to show you one other thing I love about this arcade, so I can move into an area of my expertise, which is the windows up here. So you might notice something, which is that this door, that's outside right there. We can see the light levels outside, and outside is actually not quite as bright as inside. And the reason for that is because those are mirrored. So these little semicircular windows above are mirrors, and they bounce the light off each other and create this really vibrant, exciting space, which lights up things like this beautiful clock behind me now. So the clock there is surrounded by two giants, Gog and Magog. These are from Celtic mythology in Britain. If you go to London, go to Guildford Hall, you'll be able to see Gog and Magog. Sometimes they're just called Gog Magog. It's one person instead of two, but it's important that we have two because Gog over here, he'll ring the bell every 15 minutes. So at 15 minutes after, he'll ring it once. At 1:30, he'll ring it twice. At 1:45, he'll ring it 3 times. And on the hour, he'll ring it 4 times. And then on the hour, Magog comes in with a special guest appearance to ring the number of times. And the way they ring is you see those fists on the bells? Those fists will actually pick up and go dong, dong. It's a really pretty cool thing to see. You always get a bunch of people trying to get a picture of this. Ultimately though, what is it? It's an old billboard. It's a billboard for an old clockmaker, watchmaker, who used to be in the Royal Arcade. Where are you now, Hugo?
Well, I'm still in the block arcade. I feel we're trying to one-up ourselves on arcades here. Let's turn this into a competition because, those Gog and Magog, all right, they kind of look cool, but I think that is one of the most underwhelming things that you can see in Melbourne. I have people take out their cameras, and after this 10 seconds of donging, just look at me very kind of disappointed is the word.
So you know what my favorite part is that after a Gog does it, if it's on the hour, the Gog's bell is tuned pretty all right. So it goes dong, dong, dong.
Yeah.
But Magog's is like they've not tuned it, so it just goes dunk. Dunk.
It's a dunk.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of clocks, we've got our 2 trumpeters up here on the hour. They do something just as spectacular, John. What do? They play their trumpets and they turn in a 90-degree kind of arc and play their trumpets. Whoa, it's something to behold, I tell you.
Well, most importantly, when teams get into the finals of the rugby or the footy, they put them in the scarves that the fans wear as well. So very important as well.
John, you might be able to hear some music coming from where I am. Melbourne is a city of music, a city of live music especially. We were awarded the live music venue capital of the world last year. I am standing in front of Basement Discs, one of the greatest music shops in all of Melbourne. So if you're here in the CBD, come down, check out. They've got the vinyl. They have bands that sometimes play in here. There's like vintage clothes that you can buy. One of the great small retailers here in the CBD.
Very nice. Well, should we start to bring this thing to a close?
Yeah, I think we should be mentioning, we've just been doing the block, by the way. Doing the block was something for Melbourne's nouveau rich, the Melbourne's wealthy, Melbourne's elite, with all this influx of gold money that came in. What do you need to do when you have wealth, John?
You got to show it off. You got to flaunt it.
You got to spend it. So this was a place to be seen, to flaunt your wealth, and also in the block arcade in particular, this was the Tinder of its day, ladies and gentlemen. The men are lining up at one end, the women at the other. You're passing through here, you're doing the block, keeping your eyes peeled for someone who took your fancy. Now, hopefully, someone would catch your eye, you'd introduce yourself, maybe invite them to the theatre. Within a few weeks, you are hopefully getting married. That's the way things worked back in the early 19th century, or late 19th century. I say bring it back. Let's do the block.
Well, just to wrap things off now, Hugo, behind you've got the whole hallway of the Block Arcade right over there. Behind you've got the whole hallway of the Royal Arcade. But you know how, like, at the end of the big scary movies, they were there the whole time? Let's just swivel around and show what's behind us right now.
There's
Right
John.
there. Hey! So these two arcades are right back to each other. So, you know, this is my favorite arcade, that's Hugo's favorite arcade. You can actually come and do both of these arcades when things are better. But in the meantime, this has been our favorite arcades of Melbourne. If you guys have enjoyed this, it'd be very helpful if you just hit like or interact with the video in some way. That's Hugo over there. Hugo, give me a backwards wave.
What? A wave?
Oh, yeah. A backwards wave, yeah, because we're back to each other.
This is
John.
asking me to multitask, John. This is difficult.
Thank you for joining. This has been Out of Isolation. We will be back again tomorrow, and see you later.
See you then.
Bye.